Hi, I'm Keerthan, author of the book Why Being Independent is Awesome and XMoney Secrets. So in this video, we will discuss about how do you improve your listening skill. What are the 4 key ideas that what you can implement in yourself to improve your listening quotient. Right? It's very important. We have heard this again and again, right? Why listening is important, but we actually very oftenly hear about how to improve listening. So here is the first idea. The very important thing in listening, it's not just listening to the words, because you need to understand when it comes to communication, right now as I'm communicating, it is actually the words, right? But it is for the normal mind, it is just the sound. But it is the interpretation that what you do in your mind makes the listening better, right? Because if you consider, if I speak to a group of 100 people, right? Not everybody understand the same way. Right? Because everybody's listening skill is different, their way of past is different, their experiences is different, their association to the words is different. That is where the meaning is different, and their action and their results are going to be different. I always actually wondered, because in a classroom, right, of 50, 60, 70 people, why that 10 people get more than about 80, 90 marks and most of the people get 30, 40 marks? What is that actually making? Is it a teacher's problem? Is it a student problem? What is that particularly what is actually happening? But if you really understand, it comes down to a very important skill of listening, right? Most of the thing, like even though everybody is present, everybody is listening, but they are not listening. So there is something called as selective listening. Most of the time, a very important topic in a group of discussion is happening that interests you. Then you are like doing this. And if it doesn't interest you, even though you are there, you are not listening. This is called as selective listening. But selective listening is a very bad thing for a leader. Because again, what you are doing is that in a conversation, you are actually starting the judgmental there. Like already saying that this is good, this is bad, right? The moment you involve your intellect, it is gone. Right? It is very important that you actually understand this, right? No selective listening, active listening. The type of listening that is required for you is active listening. Like how can I actually interpret every word and actually see every word as a valuable thing? Then the way how you listen to it is going to be really different, right? For some of them, active listening can be enhanced if you actually write notes, but that is not suggestible for everybody, right? Because it could be like how you write your notes, because ultimately we need to understand when we are listening, like sometimes you might have observed this, you meet a new person, right? And suddenly they speak with their introduction, with their name and all of that, and you've forgotten. Right? So what actually happened during that time is active listening is actually missing. You are just doing selective listening. What is important? What is important right now? You are already so many places. But if you are actually activated yourself that everything that comes right now is so important, right? Then retention will happen. If you understand this particular thing, you might have actually watched any movies, right? Suddenly there is a beautiful dialogue, right? And suddenly after the movie is over, you come back and tell that dialogue just like that. Right? No memorization, nothing happened, but still it is there. Why it happened? You did a selective active listening, right? It was also selective and it was also active and listening. But how about you do that as a leader? Or how about you do that when you are actually in a college doing like academics, right? So what can actually happen to your learning ability? It can go through the roof, right? So, or you write it down also can improve your enhancement of that listening possibility. So that's the first idea. The second idea in learning or listening is that you need to actually understand to ask a question. Because if you see the ancient history of India, so all the great scriptures or all the great knowledge that has come because people were like courageous to ask questions, right? You got to be curious. Like if you're listening to somebody and if they pause and they talk about it and they pause, that's a great opportunity for you. Like whatever you have done the active listening, you can ask questions right now. The more you ask questions, more retention happens. Right? Have you observed this? The time you actually start studying by yourself, it will be like, it will get faded away very soon. But if you are discussing with 2 friends and asking questions to each other, and suddenly the retention rate is high because you are actually asking questions. Same thing can be as a leader, right? If you are a leader in a group of people, it could be with your friends, or it could be in your startup, or it could be in your system. So whatever you are doing. So if you start asking questions, like asking a question is a very great form of listening, because it gives another person to talk more and tell more and give more information, and through that you can derive an insight, right? What is insight? Insight is information beyond obvious. You can get information that are beyond obvious. So that is where it's very important to ask question as much as possible and be in detail. But here is the mistake people do when asking questions. They'll ask random questions or they'll ask unrelatable questions. So it should be relatable. When you're asking the question, it has to be relatable to that person or to that situation or to that context, right? That is very, very important. So as I said, first one is active listening. How do you improve that? By taking notes or listening attentively there and putting that in a way that this is very important. The second way is, as I already told you, about asking questions, okay? And third way, most of the time what will happen in our mind is that when somebody is communicating, our objective is like, how can I answer this, right? They're actually talking. Now, what should I be in my next conversation? The moment you actually start doing it, you might actually interrupt that person in between, right? And what is missing? Again, listening. So what is important there is to pause, right? Pause, like as they complete it, you pause. And even you giving a pause, the other person feeling is that, okay, whatever I have shared, they are thinking through it, right? They are not just responding, they're just not reacting. It is going in them, they are making that processing and then they are speaking, right? You whatever you speak there, it's going to be really, really valuable, right? The power of pause, it's called as power of pause in listening. Even in communication, when you are doing that, if you can pause, it can do a lot of wonders, right? Pause doesn't mean you go into coma communication. That's not what I'm talking about. There is something I usually call when I'm coaching students is that sometimes they go blank and they go like, this is called as coma communication. Like, what is that I should be speaking right now, right? You should not be getting into coma communication, right? So this is very, very important. So as I've already told you, I'm just repeating you so that you listen better, right? So because repetition is the mother of skill, right? The more you repeat yourself with whatever the learning you go through, it is always better. So number one is active listening. Number two is asking questions. Number three is pause. Number four is that you actually give your quality time in listening. Most of the time what will happen is that we do not give quality time there, right? Our mind is going with so many things. When we say we are there, we got to be there, only then things will happen. So I hope that you actually give this very important piece of advice or ideas that what you got here and start implementing that in your listening skill and share your benefits of this active listening in the comment box. I would be very, very happy to actually read that. And also if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, kindly subscribe to that channel and also click on that bell button icon so that whenever I release these kinds of amazing videos every week, you get notified. And also share it with the loved ones whom you care. So look forward to see you in the next video.